Hello friends, welcome back. I'm Nick and this is MSFS Flight Plans, a channel dedicated to keeping your love for simming alive by giving you almost everything you'll need to see some of the coolest, most interesting, best looking locations we can find in the sim. Let's see, I've got a flight plan for you. All this stuff is included in the video description. Any add-ons that are available, those will be in there. A bookmark file so you can spot everything if you use little NavMap, so you'll know where to look for this stuff. And as if all that's not enough, I'm going to tell you about all of the incredible stuff on the ground as we're cruising along. So we're going to take a one-flight pause in our rocking out tour just to break things up just a little bit as we explore El Paso, Texas, a place that I've been wanting to show you guys for quite a while. Not because it's particularly amazing in the grand scheme of things compared to some of the other spots we've checked out, but it's interesting enough, and it looks pretty cool. And I would imagine it's one of those spots that's not been a sightseeing destination for most of you because this place is remote. It's tucked out into the far western corner of Texas, right along the Rio Grande, which means it's also along the northern border of Mexico. So, yep, we're going to get to see the wall. Well, a little bit of it anyway. But the nearest U.S. cities are to the west is Tucson. That's about 250 miles. 200 miles directly north is Albuquerque. And the next major city to the east, I-10 runs through here east-west, and there's a couple little cities as you're heading to San Antonio, which would be the next big one to the east, and that's like 450 miles. So yeah, this place is really in the middle of nowhere. I think our whole circuit today is going to be around 33 miles, and for some reason, little NavMap is not tracking my flight in real time, so I'm going to try to VFR fly this, which shouldn't be a big problem. I've done it several times now, so I think we're going to be okay. But that flight plan will be mapped out for you. If you're going to take a plane, you're going to want to adjust that a little bit. If you don't know how to do it, check in our how-to section. There's some instructions for how to change flight plans in a little NavMap if you want to. But we're obviously going to be on the right side of this. And if you like to fly your planes on the left, it's going to be a problem because you won't be able to see anything. So I think we're going to take a chopper for this one because when I was trying to take the Tomahawk, which I've really been wanting to fly because of the visibility issues, and it's a great plane for sightseeing, but there was some stuff that was a little bit too close to the left and right, so I figured a chopper would be a little bit easier. And we're going to take the HC-450N, aka the Hurricane, which I'm pretty sure is fictitious, but it's cool, and it's a lot of fun to fly, and we have not taken this up for any of our trips yet, so I figured we'd go ahead and break the seal. And as you can see, it does not have a tail rotor. And I'm not really sure how the physics of that work, but I'm going to have to look into that and see what that's all about. And you can tell it's a nice-looking chopper. They did a really good job with the modeling for most of it. There's a couple cut-and-paste issues down here, but everything else looks pretty good. And just in case you're wondering what that is, you got a big flame insignia there. All right, shut that. So here's the startup procedure. Master battery on and the fuel pump on. That's up here. That's good to go. And then throttle at 30%. And you cannot map this over to anything. I have to manipulate it in the mouse. So we'll bring that up to 30. And when it gets there, the lock will come on. That's good. And then the starter on. And then when the N1 gets to 40%, that's when we need to turn on the FADEC. Okay, so that sounds easy enough. Yeah, it's been a while since I've flown this. Okay, so here's our N1 over here. So when that hits 40... we'll throw the FADEC switch on, and then we can give it full throttle, and it's running up pretty quick, which is fantastic. And then once that's done, we'll take a look at the Google Map, and then we'll be on our way. All right, so that's good. FADEC on, and full throttle. That's good. Then our alternator and avionics on, and we should be good to go. All right, so let's go ahead and get our transponder set for... oh, it's already there. Okay, that's great. Fantastic. All right, well, this will be helpful because I can kind of see it over here. I had forgotten that this has a little GPS map in it, so that will probably work for us. Very cool. Okay, mind you, we've got the air freshener in here too, which is awesome. Let's go ahead and bring that Google map up. All right, so there's El Paso, Texas. If you've never been out here before, just go as far west as you possibly can. Well, not quite all the way west in Texas, but here's Mexico down here. There's Juarez, which is just south of El Paso. And we're going to be taking off from their big airport they have out here, El Paso International, which also shares a few fields with Fort Bliss. So we're going to come up this way. Our parking spot's right about here. We're going to follow runway heading out here and then head south across I-10. So here that is running up this way. And you'll notice it kind of cuts north as we go through town. So we'll hit that twice. We'll cross over here, cross over into Mexico for just a few minutes, which is why we've got our night camouflage helicopter so we don't get shot out of the air. And then cruise up this way over on this side of town and check out a few little spots up here, then cut across these mountains. Everything in this region here is photogrammetry, so it all looks really good all the way up in here. The mountains are not, but they look really, really good. So that'll be cool. And then we'll come through the mountains, come across the National Border Patrol Museum. I'll show you that. And then come down, get a better look at Fort Bliss, because we're heading out this way. We won't really see it well. So coming in, we'll take a look at Fort Bliss, and then probably land somewhere around here, which I think this is the main Fort Bliss airfield. The stuff down in Mexico is not photogrammetry, but it looks pretty good. The only thing that's going to be an issue is one flat building that we have over here, which is in the photogrammetry zone, so I don't know what happened with that one, but everything else is going to look pretty cool. Okay, so I was about to take another helicopter and then I could not get the engine to stay on, and I haven't flown this thing in several months, so we're going to see if I can do it on the first crack here. So just bear with me and exercise a little bit of patience. Let's get the GPS going, even though we don't really need it, because we're going to be following that one, but we'll let it do its thing and just go ahead and take off. Okay, well, little NavMap will be useless, but we'll keep it open because we'll take a look at the end and look at the satellite image to see what all's out there. Okay, so what I'm going to try to do, this is not the live weather, by the way. It looked about like this, but there was a 22-knot wind, which is a little bit too much for a helicopter. So we're going to come over to the runway and then try to take that runway heading for just a little bit. So this is the desert sky setting in AccuSeason. Collective up, and we're in the air. Despite not having a tail rotor, this feels pretty close to one that does. It's a little bit softer on the anti-torque pedals, it seems, if you've not flown this before. And I'm trying to think, I don't know if there's any other helicopters in the sim that don't have a tail rotor. So this is just not quite as responsive, and maybe that's how these feel in real life. I don't know. Alright, there's our runway. So I think the cruise speed on this is around 90 knots, so we're not going to be just blazing through this trip, which is fine because it's not really long anyway. And here we go. Alright, so let me just try to get us stabilized, and then I'll start telling you about everything going on here. So a little bit more collective. Pitch it forward a little bit. Another reason I wanted to come out here is because I have been to El Paso several times. My dad lived out here for a while in the 90s, so I took several trips out here, got to kind of see what was going on, which is not much. And one of those was a driving trip. Talk about boring. And I was coming from the east, from Tallahassee, Florida. So I was in college back then, had to drive all the way along I-10, and man, that stretch from San Antonio out here is boring. Really boring. I'd hate to run out of gas out there because there weren't many gas stations either. Alright, so you can see where the photogrammetry range is because it turns that lighter color over there, and that thing right off the end of the runway, you can see we got some flat buildings. And I don't know what's up with that because it's in the photogrammetry zone, and everything else, as you can see, looks really good. So I'm not sure what's going on with that. Alright, our torque is there. Where is our airspeed indicator? Okay, over there to the left. Alright, so we're kind of coming up on the max speed now, so let's just keep pitching it forward a bit and just get to where we're stable, and I'll start telling you about everything out here. A little bit more. And I'm going to try to get up to around 5,500 feet. I felt like that was pretty good so that you couldn't see any defects in the scenery other than that thing right there, which obviously sticks out like a sore thumb. Keep pitching down. Keep giving it collective. Alright, we're coming up on our cruise speed now, so if I can just get it level, I think we'll be in good shape. Alright, so here we go, coming around this way. So some quick stats about El Paso before we get into how the heck this place got out here. One figure that shocked me was its ranking on the list of U.S. cities by population. It sits at number 22, which is above places like Vegas, Boston, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., even Atlanta. And I think the reason for that is because the footprint of this place is huge. Kind of like Jacksonville, which is ranked at number 11 by city population, by the way, in the country. But El Paso encompasses 258 square miles, which is nearly twice that of Atlanta, and 5 times the size of Boston. So that kind of explains what's going on with that. But as far as what it's like to live out here, as you can see, it's pretty dry. Nobody has any grass in their lawns. In fact, there aren't really a lot of trees. It's mostly cactuses out here. And one thing I always thought was kind of amusing is that with nothing to mow, everyone just kind of rakes their rocks like a Zen garden in their lawns. Which I guess is what you do. But they get about 9 inches of rain on average out here, which is not a lot, and almost all that comes during the summer months. Alright, we're at 5,000 feet now, so we'll just kind of keep coming up a little bit. And we'll cruise over here to the west just a little bit. I had to turn the train level of detail down a bit. That's Juarez off in the distance, and there's I-10 right there, so we're about to cross over it. So that goes all the way to Jacksonville, where I am, and then all the way through L.A. We've seen both ends of that thing. And despite sharing a border with Juarez, which is right there in front of us, you can tell where the color kind of changes. And Juarez is one of the most dangerous cities in the whole country of Mexico, if not the world. El Paso held the title of the safest U.S. city between 2011 and 2014. And it was on the All-American City Award list 5 times. Jacksonville's only done that once. And that hasn't been since I've lived here. Last time they won that was in 1968. Okay, so coming up over here, that circular thing is a big community college. Right over here, I think I can use my other hand now. This is a big community college. And then Astacarte Park, I had to look over there to make sure I was pronouncing that right, is this here, and I'll tell you why it's important to remember that, because I'm going to tell you about something that used to be there that's not there anymore once we get around to the other side of town. A little bit about the history of the area. The first humans to settle out here probably got started around 12,000 years ago, and they've dated them mostly by the arrowheads known as Folsom Points that they found out here in the area. Once the Spanish arrived, the region became a popular route to the north, gaining its original title of El Paso del Norte, and they founded that settlement in the 1650s. And after the Texas Revolution in 1836, which we learned all about in our San Antonio flight, the area north of the Rio Grande became the property of Texas. So that's everything here. Here's the Rio Grande right here, and the wall is going to be running on this side of it, and then this is a road that kind of runs all the way along it. But this place was so remote and had so few English-speaking Americans that they kind of just let the locals in Mexico work out their issues on their own, which they did without much fuss until the borders and governance issues were made official in 1846. Let's get that pointer out of there. And since this place is out on the frontier, the western frontier, and on the border with Mexico, you can probably imagine the shenanigans that went on in El Paso well into the 20th century. One permanent feature out here, however, were military outposts of one form or another, and they still have a huge one out here today. That's Fort Bliss, which we'll see we're coming in. Okay, so let's go over Mexico for just a little bit, see if we can not get shot out of the air. And you can tell all of those houses down there jammed on top of each other, a lot like Mexico City. Really tightly squeezed in there. And there's the wall right down there below us. I was having trouble pinning down the date that the first wall went up out here. It sounds like they replaced an older wooden one with a metal fence in 1978, but I think they really beefed things up again in 2021 out in this region. The history of Ciudad Juarez to our left is pretty much the history of El Paso, since they used to be a part of the same population region, but things have diverged a bit in the last century. For one thing, as you can see, the citizens of Juarez are really packed in there. And they've got more than twice the population of El Paso, despite not being much bigger land-wise. And from everything I could see from across the river, which would be over to our right when I was visiting, it looks really, really poor out here. More than a few of those little houses look like cardboard boxes with tarps for roofs. And there's always a thick layer of brown smog hanging over the city over here. But it sits at a slightly lower elevation than El Paso, so from anywhere in the city, if you're looking to the south at night, it's really cool. You can see the whole place stretching off in the distance, all the lights and everything. So this is a big public park down here to our right. It's called Parque Republico Federal El Camizal. And this big thing over here is a stadium, which just got modeled flat, but it's a big soccer stadium over there. And they've got two giant baseball parks right over here. See one there and there, but that one rendered flat, so we're not going to cruise over there, but they're right next to each other. So they got some stuff for people to do out there. And right up here is one of the 4 border crossings in the area, and there's another one on the north side of this park, which I didn't point out, but I'll show it to you on the end. So they got one here, one back behind us. There's no more going up this way, but there's 2 more over to the east. All right, so getting to downtown here, there's 2 things that are really going to jump out at you. One of them is the Abraham Chavez Theater, which is a big performing arts center. And it's going to kind of be a circular looking deal. It's behind our pillar right now. We'll see in just a second. And I really like, for some reason, that you can see the tire marks on the top of these parking garages. That's just really cool. See those S-shaped things? So there's the Performing Arts Theater. They got a big outdoor amphitheater right here. We'll see that when we come around. There's the Convention Center. And this is a minor league park for the El Paso Chihuahuas, which is an affiliate of the Padres. And it all looks really good, as you can see. And really dry. And even though it's pretty toasty out here all the time, it doesn't feel real hot because it's so dry, unlike Florida, where the humidity is just suffocating. Even an 80-degree day can feel really hot out here. All right, here's the UTEP campus up here on our right, and that's the University of Texas at El Paso, and that's a public school established in 1913 with a current enrollment of around 25,000. And there's their Sun Bowl. And that big M up on there is for their mascot. They're called the Miners. And over here, there's a big E. See it over there? You can probably guess what that's for. But that's cool, isn't it? Look how they built it down in that little hole in the mountains there. Really neat. All right, we're going to come over this way, and the border, we're going to get a little bit of popping here because it goes from photogrammetry over to some default stuff, and it looks like they got some different images overlapping. But the border wall crosses over this way and goes directly east for about 200 miles, or directly west for about 200 miles, and the Rio Grande starts to stretch up north into the United States from here. And I was trying to see where the wall was, because on the map it looked like it ran about over here, but I couldn't see it anywhere. I know it goes up here like this and then cuts over this way, but I can't see where it goes from there. And you can see it's a little bit blotchy there as these images are overlapping each other. All right, let's trim down some more because I do not want to be higher than 6,000 feet. I prefer to be much lower than that, actually. All right, up next is the Sunland Park Racetrack and Casino, which you can see over there to our right. And just south of that is a theme park called Western Playland, which we'll get a nice little look at. And that horse track opened in '59. The theme park was opened a year later, but it used to be over in that park I was showing you guys back to the east. And they moved it out here in 2006. I guess the owner had some kind of issue with the city, so he packed up and moved just outside of the city limits, which runs probably up this road here. That's probably where the city limits of El Paso are. So there's the big track there. There's the casino. All of it looks good. Let's see if we can get down even a little bit more. And then here's where the theme park is. Doesn't look like they have any big rides or anything. Looks like pretty cheap stuff, but I guess the kids can play there while you're blowing all your money on the horses. Looks pretty cool. Very detailed. Got a little merry-go-round or something over there. There's a tiny little place up here called Keystone Heritage Park, which is going to be right here. I'm going to see if we can spot anything there, but it's also an archaeological site. When they were building out this big water control, flood control dam, they uncovered some buildings when I guess it was dug out and a thunderstorm rolled through and kind of washed all the dirt away. And they found some buildings that were around 4,000 years old here, and then they found it was a whole village. And they said, here's it, this is it right here. And they said that may be one of the oldest of its size in the United States. And this thing here is a wetlands park, which is almost comical considering how tiny it is. I think the pond back at the race course was bigger than that. Alright, speaking of comical, we're going to check out these two huge flood control dams up here as we head up north and then cut across these mountains. And these things are so big, it seems like a bit of overkill, but I'm sure they're there for a reason. I suppose with nothing but dirt and gravel out here, it's just... there's nothing to soak up all the rain when it comes down. And they have that deluge of a half an inch in July. But look at how detailed these are. Looks just great. Alright, so you can see where the imaging is going to change. Fortunately, the mountains look amazing, so we're going to come up around this way. Right on the other side of our pillar, there's a really nice looking high school we'll check out, then cruise up over these mountains, which just look incredible. Look at the high school. That must be pretty new, because it got the blue roof. And I was trying to see where the runoff channels are, which has got to be one of those right there. That's got to be it. Yep. Kind of looks like what they have out in LA, except there's not trees growing out of it. So I guess when it rains, it really rains. Look at this here. Imagine having a house up there. That'd be pretty cool. I'd rather have it up there, but you got the high rent stuff up there. High school looks awesome. Alright, so we're going to come... I'm going to see how close we can get to the top of this mountain as we come over this pass, because it is so detailed. It's like Oman, where you can see every little boulder and rock and grain of sand and everything. It's amazing. So we'll head on out there, cruise over the top of that, and these get up to probably 5,500 feet. And they're called the Franklin Mountains. And just as we come across it, we're going to fly over an area called the Kastner Range National Monument, which is going to be off to the left side. You're not going to be able to tell what it is, but we'll be flying over it. Which only got that designation last year. And it used to be a weapons testing area for Fort Bliss, which is what we're going to see shortly. Back in the 60s, they shut it down after Vietnam. But it's also the location of no less than 41 archaeological sites going back through 6,000 years of human history. Well, looks like we got another little flat neighborhood over there, doesn't it? Oh, if they could have just gone like a quarter mile further out with a photogrammetry, they would have hit it. No big deal. Alright, so let's check this thing out. Let's see just how close we can get. See how detailed it is. And up on the top of that mountain over there, I don't know if you guys can see me. If you got a big screen, you can see it. They got a bunch of Radio masts and stuff up there. It looks really, really cool. Alright, we'll pitch back down in just a minute here. But I want to get over this lip without hitting it. Alright, so not necessarily this first mountain, but look at the rocks and stuff on this next one as we come across. I mean, this one looks good too, as you can tell. Look down there. Amazing. And I don't think those are perma-shadows either. If you move the sun around, I think it moves around as it should. So the Kastner Range is over on the left side of that road there, and we're going to see an archaeological museum and the Border Patrol Museum in just a minute. It's going to be on the side of that road on the north side of it. Look at that. Look how detailed that is. Incredible. Boy, I bet you could do some hiking up there. Better bring a lot of water with you, though. And I don't know when that Border Patrol Museum opened, and that sounds like an awfully boring place to visit, but I checked out their website and looked at some of the pictures on the inside of it. They got a whole bunch of guns and vehicles, and even some aircraft. At least 3 of them that I could spot. All 3 of them you can also fly in the sim, and I won't spoil it for you in case you want to try to see what's in there yourself. But they had a bush plane, a helicopter, an ultralight. Really neat looking. And they even had what looked like a Camaro from the 1980s, dressed up in Border Patrol livery. Alright, so here it is here. So this is the Archaeological Museum, and then here's the Border Patrol building right here. And this area over here was called Cohen Stadium, and I say was because it's not there anymore. I think they pulled that down in 2019, which is why you can still see it in here, and they're turning this whole area into the Cohen Entertainment District. And when we look at the satellite map at the end, you'll see the park's not there, the baseball stadium's not there, and they had another minor league team in there called the Diablos, and I don't know where those guys went. I don't know if they're still here or not, but you can see the turf and everything's already pulled up, so they're probably just about to pull that down. But right here now, they got a big water park, which is very cool. That looks kind of like a community college, doesn't it? It might be. We know it's not a high school because there's no huge stadiums. But they do have another big high school out here somewhere. I remember seeing their football field. And then this thing up here, check this out. This is an Old Glory Veterans Memorial, and because we're in Texas, they have not 1 but 2 huge stars on the ground. But they got a 180-foot flagpole right in the middle of that thing with an 80-foot long flag hanging off of it, which is just about as Texas as it gets. Awesome. Alright, so I got to take the right angle here to VFR this just right. So this is the big cemetery. This is a cemetery here, but this is the Fort Bliss Cemetery, and they got tons of military vehicles out here. And I wanted to fly low enough this time to see if we could spot any tanks or anything. It looked like a lot of personnel carriers, but I want to see if we can see any heavy metal out there. Okay, so a little bit about Fort Bliss while we're lining up for our final here. The fort area itself, at least the part with any structures, isn't all that big. That's what we're heading towards right now. But they've got a gigantic range. All that up there is their land, bringing its total land area to roughly 1,700 square miles, which is second only to the White Sands Complex for the U.S. It also has the longest tract of unrestricted airspace in the country, so we'll be sure to stay down here, because the things that they're using on that range all go up in the air. Artillery, rockets, things like that. And since 2011, it's been home to the 1st Armored Division, which had been out in Germany for the preceding 40 years. And I'm hoping we'll be able to see all this stuff. Yep, I think we're going to be just fine. All those things on the other side of that rectangular brown thing, which is the cemetery, that's all parking stuff for the machinery, so we'll see what we can spot out there. And while we're heading over there, a couple famous people from El Paso, more than a couple. Gene Roddenberry. If that sounds kind of familiar to you, he was the guy that created Star Trek, was born in El Paso. And broadcaster Sam Donaldson's from El Paso. And former Congressman Beto O'Rourke. And I was a little surprised by that. I knew he was from Texas, I think. I guess I just somehow missed that he was the representative for this district out here. Alright, we're going to come down even more, trim up a little bit. Alright, so directly in front of us, and then the one to the left of that road, those are all military vehicles. Fans of professional wrestling from the 1980s, which I'll go on a limb and assume is all of you, might recall Eddie Guerrero. Well, he's also from El Paso, born out here on October 9th of 1967. He died of a heart attack in 2005, though, just 38 years old, and I could probably guess what caused that. Okay, so we got some stuff down there. Those look like personnel carriers. So does that stuff on the left. Alright, tanks and cannons and howitzers, where are you? They gotta have some of these out here, right? Maybe they keep those covered up. And at the end, I hope I remember to show you some of that range over there, because it's pretty cool. I'm going to try to remember. Well, ooh, look at that. We might have some tanks. Let's see how close we can get. Although when you get real close, they start looking real angular, so we'll just see what happens. Trim up some. That looks kind of heavy, doesn't it? Let's see. Nope, those look like cover truck. Oh, there we go. And that second one on the other side. Let's see what we got over there. That looks like tanks. And a lot of Humvees. Yeah, those look like tanks there. Yep. I think we found them. But I bet if you got close, you wouldn't even be able to tell what the heck they are. Alright, so where should we park this thing? Let's see. We got a few different options over here. And let me come over this side just a little bit. And we'll kind of come around this way. Yeah, this thing is very mushy on the anti-torque pedals. Really not very responsive, but maybe that's just how these things fly without a tail rotor. Alright, I'm going to come over these buildings, I guess, and land on that big rectangular spot there in front of us. Ooh, do we have some more armor up here? Well, that's good. Scrapyard right there, doesn't it? Man, someone should do up one of these bases with just a bunch of tanks and howitzers out there. That'd be so cool. Freaky D, if you're watching this, there's a project for you. Alright, let's get this baby down. And it has been a really long time since I've tried to land this, but it can't be all that much different other than the mushy pedals and all the other choppers. Alright. So I've got about 50% right pedal right now, and it's just, I mean, some of the others would be swinging all over the place if I push this hard. This looks like as good a spot as any. Oh, do we actually have a circle down there? That looks like a turnaround spot for a plane. Trim up some more. Alright, so up next is, I just got a request for a big rock formation in Kansas from one of our members. I can't wait to check that out. She said it looks good in the sim too, so that'll be cool. And we're definitely going to go hit that place in Sri Lanka. We must be getting a little wind here. Yep, we are. That's what's moving us a little bit. It looks like little NavMap decided to start working again at the last second. So we got that coming up, and Mount Rushmore. We got to check that out, and then we'll be heading out to Rio de Janeiro at some point. And within sometime this week, I will post in our community section of the YouTube page the 3 flights for our quarterly flight recommendation competition, and they will have a poll there so you can vote on the best one. The winner will get a sim vendor gift card to the vendor of their choice. All right, I need to concentrate on putting this down for just a second. Come on, baby, right on down there. Nice and easy. There we go. There were no instructions for how to shut this down, so I'm just going to turn the throttle all the way off and then shut the fuel off. Hopefully that'll do it. And you got to unlock it to get the throttle all the way down, so that. Shut the fuel off and hit the rotor brake. Does it have one? Yep. Ooh, that's a little unpleasant, isn't it? Okay, let's look at a little NavMap real quick. Boy, that's a lot of racket. Okay, so the reason why this looks like it does is because I had to have an airport for us to come back into. Again, if you're going to take a plane, draw this out however you'd like. You're not going to be able to fly it like this unless you're sitting on the right side of the plane. And even then, if you take it like this, we're going to be too close to see some of the stuff unless you can see right out in front of you. But here's where we left from, coming out this way. And right here is a little community park they got. This is not the one where they had that theme park before. This was just another little one that caught my eye. And look at this, high school stadiums. Man, they are just, they don't fool around out here. Not in Texas. Not with high schools. And then we saw this community college down here. Nothing interesting about it, but it will definitely catch your eye as you're coming around. And then this is the park, Ascarate Park, where that theme park was that they had to move outside the city limits for some reason. So here's the Rio Grande running all the way down this way, and some of the border crossings. There's another one there, and there must be another one way out here because there aren't any more to the west. But I'll show you the other two in just a second. So down here, this is all Juarez, and there's those 2 baseball parks while we're in this vicinity. And then here's that big soccer stadium, which you could see for some reason they just put a roof on it. I don't know how they botched that one, but it's AI, I'm sure, not an individual looking at it. So we came across here, and there's the fence, which you really can't see looking down on top of it. But that's it. That's the Rio Grande. And that's interesting. I didn't look to see what that was. And then here's the main border crossing here that we went across when I went into Juarez, which was not nearly as dangerous back when I was out here checking it out. Boy, look at that high school. That is right on the border, isn't it? And then there's the other big border crossing, and then that third one, I don't know where that is. So here's downtown El Paso. So this is the Abraham Theater, Performing Arts Theater. This is the Convention Center. There's that outdoor amphitheater. Not a lot of historical buildings, or they got some museums and stuff out here. They just don't look very distinguishable from everything else. And then here's the park where the El Paso Chihuahuas play, which looked really, really nice in the sim. But my favorite part, I think, is this UTEP campus. That Sun Bowl is really cool. I like that a lot. They did a nice job of that, just seeing it sitting down on the mountain. There's the big M for the miners. And then here's the El Paso E right there. That is just so wild how they do that in the West. I can't think of anywhere on the eastern side of the country where they do that. Okay, so let's see if we can see where this border wall is going. All right, so it comes up this way, comes across here. I mean, it really looks like it just dead ends. Surely they didn't just dead end the thing. I mean, they wouldn't leave a stretch like that open. Well, maybe they would these days. Because the border with the U.S. goes right through here like this. In fact, that's it right there. So this is probably where it picks back up. Maybe they figure that no one's going to actually cross over the mountains. Nobody would do that. I didn't see that on top of the mountain when we flew over. But anyway, so maybe that's what it is. Maybe they have another fence over here. I don't know. But that's where it should be. That's the border with the U.S. that way. And it just goes way, way out that way. So here is the Sunland Park and Race Course. And here is the Western Playland. Let's see if they have any more rides. No, they really don't. They got just like county fair rides. Well, there's a roller coaster, but it's really thin, so it might not have modeled in the sim. They got another one over here and here. I feel like all we could see, I wasn't looking for roller coasters. We could definitely see like that thing, whatever it is, and all these little round things, but I couldn't see anything other than that. But the race park, the racetrack certainly look good. And then here's the Keystone Heritage Park, where they found those old ruins. And there's the wetlands. And the dam they were clearing out when they found the park, or they found the ruins. Okay, and let's see. Here are the other dams that we saw, which looked really cool, really cool. And then there's the Franklin High School as we head over to the Franklin Mountains, coming across this way. And that must have been the neighborhood that got modeled flat. I think it is. Came across these mountains right here, which is just so cool. If you take this at sunset, of course, you won't be able to see the stuff on the ground as well. Just beautiful. Or sunrise when it's coming up from this direction over here, from the east. Amazing. So here's the Border Patrol and Archaeology Museum. This is the Border Patrol Museum here. That's the archaeological one. And then here is where the baseball park was, Cohen Stadium. Now you can see it's a big dirt spot. And there's the water park they built. So in the sim, you can see the baseball park, can't see the water park. But now they got the water park out there too. And they're going to put like some movie theaters and restaurants and shops out there. And then here's Old Glory, which unfortunately we can't see that flag waving around. But that's a big one. Another star of some kind over there. I don't know what all this stuff is here. Maybe handball courts. And then we came down this way. If you feel like flying a little bit further over this direction, you can see this in the sim. Some of the medians are painted like this, and you can see it perfectly in the sim. You see that? So that's kind of neat if you feel like flying over there. And if you're in a helicopter, you'd be on the right side of the thing to see them. But there's a few spots around town that have that, which is just really cool. And if you feel like trying a little bit of a landing challenge, they've got a big hospital out here that has a landing pad at it, a helicopter landing pad. And I don't think that's it. And I'm not going to try to look for it because I can't remember where it was. But there's a big hospital out here that has a big helicopter landing pad, which you cannot select in the sim. And I'm sorry that I didn't remember to mark where that was. But it doesn't look good once you get on top of it anyway. All right, so here's Fort Bliss. And you can see most of this is their housing stuff out here. But let's see if we can figure out where those tanks were parked, or at least what they had parked out there. So none of that is it. We saw this section over here, which had some stuff in it. Doesn't look like tanks to me, though. Oh, boy, look at that. That is just a jumbled mess. I can't tell what any of that stuff is. But here, over here is where I think, well, let's see what we got up here. No, those don't really look like tanks. Looks like a lot of Humvees and big trucks. Probably saw a lot of action during Desert Storm. I think this is where the tanks were. Those kind of look like tanks or armored personnel carriers, maybe. These things here. I just don't know. These all look like Humvees to me. Oh, well. And then we came on in for our landing, which was... Let's see if it'll let us look at it. Right here. I think that's where we came in. Right there. Nope, we were over here. This is where we landed. And then here's where I thought we might have seen... Well, they got a couple planes parked out there. Man, I really want to see some tanks. Sorry, guys. We'll see if we can find a spot that's got tanks. If you know of a place where we can see some tanks in the sim, let me know. I want to check that out. So that's El Paso. Thanks for joining me. I just had to get that off my list. It's a photogrammetry city, not a spot that most of you would probably fly over. Keep your eyes peeled for The voting thing I'll make an announcement in our next video when it's up. It'll be on our community page, so you have to subscribe if you want to check out the community page, unless you just go to our YouTube page and then click the community tab. If you're subscribed, it'll let you know when it came in. And if you want to join our Discord server, that link will also be in the video description. That is how you submit requests for the flight plans. And right now we got like 35 members, so your chances of winning one are pretty good. We don't have a lot of members in there, but all I need is a destination airport, a departure airport, and a few things to look at in between. I'll draw out the flight plan. I'll do it up real nice. We'll get it posted. We'll vote on it for next quarter. We've already got one in the hopper at least. But as usual, had an absolute blast as always, guys, and I cannot wait to see y'all again in the skies. Later.